I want to share with you guys a video of my friend and mentor, Andrew Breitbart. I was the first employee of his organization. We launched about 11 years ago. And here's a video of him. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Take a look.
We are the majority in this country. And the mainstream media has used smoke and mirrors and those funny clown mirrors in order to create the perception that the minority is the majority, and the majority is not just the minority, but a bad, racist, homophobic, all those buzzwords that they learned in their freshman orientation class at Wesleyan are used as weapons to try to destroy you and to intimidate you to not speak up and to speak your mind. And your days of doing this are over. Thank you. It's not your business model that sucks, it's you that sucks.
So again, my name's Alex Marlow. I'm the editor-in-chief of Breitbart News Network and Breitbart.com, which is, thank you. It's one of the, according to Amazon.com, owned Alexa.com, one of the top 5 most popular news sites in all of the United States. So thank you very much for that. I also host a radio show called Breitbart News Daily on Sirius XM, and I feature a Turning Point USA student every week in order to highlight a lot of the great work you guys are doing on campus, and we're going to continue to do that into next year. So that was Andrew Breitbart's take on the media demonizing the Tea Party movement, which many of you are not old enough to remember. That was the precursor to the MAGA movement back in 2010. And that was a man 9 years ago who was really setting the table for many on our side and how we fight today. He was an inspiration to Candace Owens, to Charlie Kirk, to Dr. Gorka, and to so many of the people that you've been hearing today. And they're all different brands, but they're unified under one single theme that originated with Andrew. Conservatives are no longer going to be anyone's bitch. So Andrew passed away 7 years ago when he was just 43, but the conservative movement today, it's filled with his energy and his strategy, as well as his attitude. And when I decided that the centerpiece of this talk should be a clip of Andrew and talk about what he understood at his time and how we're using his skills today, I built a list of lessons that could fill a book. But I decided, because of sake of time, I want to focus on 3 today. And the first one is that Andrew believed in the wisdom of the people and not the elite. Andrew was constantly on the phone. I was his assistant. I had very menial work to do at the very beginning. I was just out of college. Actually, I was just in college. And I would observe Andrew while he was in a small company, 2, 3, 4 people for the first year or so. And Andrew would be talking on the phone constantly, just constantly had a phone to his ear. And if he wasn't on the phone, he was lost in some sort of online chat or conversation. And sometimes I'd ask him who he was on the phone with, and sometimes it would be, or who he was emailing or texting. It'd be a who's who of conservative news and politics. It'd be Ann Coulter, it would be Sean Hannity, it'd be Rush Limbaugh. But then oftentimes, or just as often, it would be the secretary-treasurer of the local college Republicans or the local Lincoln Club organizer. He really believed that he had as much to learn from the people as he did from the elite. And he loved the elite. He loved going to the cocktail parties. He loved going and hang out with them. But then he realized that they didn't have their finger on the pulse of what was really affecting people in their day-to-day lives. So he turned from them and he turned towards you, the people. And this is really the beginning of what I think was a major uprising in the conservative movement. He understood that the media they weren't just biased, they had contempt for American people. They had contempt for you, the normal people. Does that remind you of any current presidents of the United States, perhaps? Now, I turned on a fake news network on last Thursday, one with incredibly low ratings. And I heard a man that would be best known by his nickname, Fredo. So Fredo is a man, he once went on a viral tirade where he said that the word Fredo, which is a reference to the dumb brother in the Godfather movies who got a media job, that was as bad as the N-word or something. I don't know if he'll live that down. He certainly hasn't apologized for that specific slight. But Fredo, as he's called and will forever be known, summed up what Trump stands for to his supporters the following way: us good, them bad. Now, as editor of Breitbart, I think I've had a pretty good sense of what drives MAGA country for the last 5 years or so. And I always thought Trump stood for something different. I thought Trump stood for strong borders. I thought he stood against a corporate ruling class, against endless wars, against expensive, ineffective global treaties where Americans pay more than our share, for our allies in Israel being able to declare their own capital, against trade deals that penalize the American worker. I thought Trump stood for a hard line on authoritarian communists in China, against overregulation, for tax cuts, for the First Amendment, for the Second Amendment, against limitless abortions. And maybe most importantly, I think Trump stands against the establishment media like Fredo, who holds we the people in contempt. Or maybe it's just us good, them bad. In any case, strategy ain't working for CNN and the establishment press at this point. TV ratings are pathetic. And despite having a vast international newsroom and billions of dollars at their disposal, last Thursday, during the Democrat debate, Breitbart News, with a staff of fewer than 100, had a total budget which is roughly around what CNN pays off airports to carry their crappy television. Their very fake broadcasts, all of that going into it, we had 3 times the engagement on social media as fake news CNN. And by the way, guess who had number 1? I'll give you a hint. President Trump. I guess I didn't give you a hint. So Andrew knows that the fake news thinks you're stupid and he thinks they should tell you how to live. But the media has been doing this for a while. I think we fought back pretty effectively, that data being a good example of it. But I'll tell you, there's a big battle brewing, and that's with the masters of the universe. Google, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram effectively own the internet. They're controlled by 3 companies from one town, and they have one political worldview. Now, could these tech dictators be benevolent? Sure, but are they? Let's look at some of the evidence. At Breitbart, we broke an hour-long video last year of a weepy meeting at Google, just after the 2016 election, where an executive said that Google must ensure the rise of populism doesn't turn into a world war or something catastrophic, and instead is a blip or a hiccup. Ensure, he said. Well-documented discrimination against the right in news and search, and now they're censoring Trump ads. And they expressed a strategy that they want to influence conservatives in Washington by cutting them some checks. Sadly, that strategy is working. Google also owns YouTube, which is known for demonetizing and firewalls, unfairly targeting conservatives. Facebook, which also owns Instagram, turned down their algorithm to slow down Breitbart. Breitbart, according to a study put together by Harvard and MIT, had the highest Facebook interactions just ahead of the fake news New York Times in the 2016 presidential election. This was a problem. Facebook got a lot of crap for this. So they dealt with it by turning down everyone's news and turning down the reach of all news. So they're also teaming with left-wing groups to do fact checks. They deboost unwanted content according to a whistleblower. And who decides what's unwanted? The same people. Mark Zuckerberg and his group of left-wing people in Silicon Valley. They decide. Totally subjective. They even have a hate list. That hate list includes Candace Owens. So they won't let you name the alleged whistleblower from the impeachment. So which means that Mark Zuckerberg, as functioning as the editor-in-chief of the entire internet, has said that an executive branch worker who is trying to single-handedly take down an American president, we don't even get to know his name. By the way, everyone thinks it's a guy named Eric Ciamarella. We don't know for sure, but we think. So, Twitter, known for shadow bans, they allow racism to stand, provided it's against white people. And they now ban you for misgendering, which, can I say, misgendering is not real. See, I can say that a man is a man and a woman is a woman on this stage. I can say that we're actually robbing young girls of part of their childhood by insisting that men get to compete against them in sports. However, if I tweet that today from my account, I will get kicked off of Twitter. So somehow these companies, maybe something should be done to address this. But if you say that, you're now all of a sudden some sort of a left-wing commie. In fact, many prominent conservatives literally believe the solution to this is to build our own Google and to build our own Facebook, etc. So, in fact, I want to reassure some of you who think that this is encroaching big government conservatism. This is very important. This is the only key detail I want to mention today. All of this is based off of all these protections that allow for these companies to discriminate against you is with something called Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which protects these companies as platforms, not publishers. This shields them from lawsuits arising from good faith censorship of content, which means they can censor and they can ban and they can discriminate, and they're off the hook for it because of this rule, Section 230. Now, there are certain people like Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri who has legislation out that would amend this, that would fix this. So if you're concerned that you don't want regulation of private businesses, first of all, you can't discriminate based off of race or religion or sexual orientation, and there's blatant discrimination going on against viewpoints, your viewpoint. And second of all, what we're calling for is not so much new regulation, fixing a broken one, which is allowing for discrimination of people like you. And let us be clear, the goal is to shut down the MAGA movement in order to prevent Donald Trump from getting reelected and having this movement, what we're building here, have any longevity. So that was the most serious bit. This is it gets a little more fun. One of Andrew Breitbart's other tools was holding up a mirror to the media. He knew that he didn't need to editorialize to show the absurdity and the hypocrisy of the left. I picked some headlines just from one of our verticals this week. We've got about a dozen or so at Breitbart. These are sections. And this is just from our entertainment vertical. These are just headlines from last week. Robert De Niro, Trump needs to be humiliated. I'd like to see a bag of shit right in his face. Zoe Kravitz celebrates Trump impeachment with seductive photo. Eat that 45. Alyssa Milano at LA impeachment rally. I'm premenopausal and I'm angry. Vote them all out. Rob Reiner defends champion of our survival Greta Thunberg against soulless Trump. Robert De Niro again. Trump a nasty little bitch and his supporters are crazy. Okay, attacking the supporters, that's a good idea. Patton Oswalt, actor, if you voted for Trump, you're a stupid asshole. If you support him, you're a stupid asshole. Borat director Larry Charles warns of deadly riots if Trump remains in office. Bette Midler decries much less classy discourse after calling black Trump supporters props and fantasizing about the Trump family being hanged. And a bonus one, transgender professor, this is Christmas, after all, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is the queerest holiday special. So, the truth is fun. You get to share this stuff, and I don't have to editorialize. That's our parlor trick. This is why people try to ban us, but it's hard to do, because we're just quoting them. We're putting a mirror back on the media. We do the same with the Democrats. We do the same with the establishment press. We do the same with the globalists in Europe. So while the media was misleading the public on how Trump got urinated on in Russia and then became Putin's puppet, that hoax, and the Covington kids are monsters hoax, and the Ferguson hands up don't shoot hoax, and the Trayvon Martin was lynched lie, and the Kavanaugh runs rape gangs hoax, and they believe that climate change is an existential threat even though I just bought a seaside mansion and I have an irrational hatred of nuclear power hoax, that Trump said they were good Nazis in Charlottesville hoax, and that Elizabeth Warren is actually an Indian. They're lying about all this stuff. In the meantime, at Breitbart, we were covering Brexit. We were reporting on globalist trade deals that ended up leading to the gutting of our middle America, blue-collar jobs, which were replaced by opioids, if they were replaced by anything at all. We were reporting on the immigration crisis, where Breitbart has been down to the border every month for the last 5 years, and report that, yes, Barack Obama was holding migrants in cages and passing out Mylar blankets that looked like tinfoil to shield them. and the reality of the cartels, which is that while we only know some of the people who are crossing our border illegally, you don't cross the southern border illegally unless you have made a deal with the most violent extremists we've got, the Mexican cartels. Literally, you guys aware of this? Probably about 75% of women who come up are raped along the way. Every one of them who makes it has a debt to the Mexican cartels. This is a story that the establishment media completely uninterested in because they're so busy covering all this fake news. But last but not least, and this is one where I think Turning Point's done a great job, is they use humor. Andrew used humor. He was the OG meme master. He was the type of guy who, when he would show up at a protest, he wouldn't just show up, he would show up on roller skates. How many of you remember the Anthony Weiner scandal? So Andrew was at the forefront of that. We were the first to report that Weiner had claimed that he'd been hacked when he had sent out a bulging underwear picture. And when Weiner went to resign at his press conference, Andrew hijacked the press conference and took on the media right before Weiner came out and gave a tearful resignation. If you guys have not watched that on YouTube, you must. And if you have watched it, watch it again. It is my favorite YouTube moment by a mile. I think Trump does the same thing, and people have not given him enough credit. His comic timing is honed from 30 years of being in the public limelight, being a TV star. And the media is unwilling to concede this. But perhaps in 2020, he'll get a challenger with a sense of humor. Let me read to you something from Joe Biden. He said this a couple of years ago about his time as a lifeguard in Wilmington, Delaware, back in the 60s. He's quite old. And this is not going to be the corn pop story, which I think I brought up. I think I brought up corn pop last time I was here. Okay, here, this is from the next president, Biden. And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand, and to get hot, I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight. And then watch the hair come up back again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I loved kids jumping on my lap. Well, it's certainly funny. Certainly funny, you gotta give him that. Though I don't know if he meant it as funny. By the way, I looked into roaches, which the establishment media wouldn't do. It's a racial slur, and Biden's never been called on this. It's a derogatory slur for black kids. And no one calls Biden out for this. Why is he allowed to continue calling black kids roaches? This was 2 years ago. This wasn't 1,000 years ago. So maybe his policies are more coherent than his stories of yesteryear. He was asked Thursday in the debate if he'd be willing to sacrifice the growth for normal Americans, even displacing hundreds of thousands of blue-collar workers in the interest of transitioning to a greener economy. He said, the answer is yes, because the opportunity for those workers to transition to high-paying jobs is real. So he said he's willing to gut more working-class jobs in order to satisfy the green gods of the left. It's not going to be very persuasive in the Midwest, I don't think. So let's go to Liz Warren. Not only is she a fake Indian, Pocahontas, fake Pocahontas. Her ancestors rounded up Cherokees for the Trail of Tears. She's a direct descendant of militia Indian fighters who fought the Seminole tribe. So not only is she not an Indian, her ancestors fought Indians. But if you turn on CNN, you think Trump is the only person who's ever told a lie. Bernie Sanders even suggested that we should impeach Trump for being a pathological liar. Not impeachable, Bernie. So what's Elizabeth Warren's biggest policies? A wealth tax, so we're going to confiscate more wealth. I'd be open to it if it would work, but it's not going to work. It's just more fake Indians like Elizabeth Warren spending our money badly. People should be allowed to spend their money how they would like. The only issue where Democrats pull ahead of Republicans in a major issue is healthcare. Elizabeth Warren would like to sacrifice that by proposing a Medicare for All plan, which means on day one, every single American, or 80% plus, are going to get tossed off of their health care. We're going to start from scratch with 100 million people trying to get back on new health care. Genius. Okay, how about Pete Buttigieg? So his polling numbers with black voters are just a notch below George Wallace. He was a segregationist, an actual racist. So, he posed for reparations for illegal immigrants. And he's actually said that not only should illegal immigrants who come to the United States be compensated because of their mistreatment by our Americans who are bravely defending our country at our borders, he actually believes that they should be put on a fast track to citizenship. So you can jump the line, all you have to do is come in through the southern border and claim that you've been bothered by Americans trying to enforce our laws. This is where we're in $23 trillion in debt, and he wants to hand out reparations for people who just got here. This is a handout to the cartels, by the way, to connect the dots. This is an incentive, game on for them. More incentive for them to do their business. Their rates just went up. Pete also runs as a Christian who wants unlimited late-term abortion. And now to protect that, he wants to pack the courts, which means Pete is going to add additional judges and justices so long as these judges and justices are pro late-term abortion, which is the standard party line with Democrats. Let me ask you, who the hell is this guy? He's 37 years old, or is he 38 now? He is a small-town mayor. The last time he won an election with 11,000 votes. 11,000 votes. Now what he's going to do is he's going to pack our courts. He's going to give amnesty. He's going to decide unilaterally who should be a citizen in the United States by himself. So that leaves us to Bernie Sanders, last top-tier Democrat, the socialist with 3 homes and millions of dollars. Now, can I ask, do we know if Bernie Sanders is paying above his suggested tax rate? Does he give any gifts to the federal government? Because I'll tell you right now, the tax rate is the floor of what you can pay. You're allowed to pay as much as you like. You give gifts to the United States Treasury. So if Bernie Sanders is not paying the exact tax rate that he wants the rest of us to pay, then I don't think a single person should vote for him. He needs to walk the walk. So he's not just one of the oldest people in the world. He's also one of the whitest. Yet he walks around calling everyone a racist. So he said that our goal is to transform the economy and the government of the United States. Now, when we have record economic numbers the way we've had lately, would you guys like to see the economy transformed? Maybe you'd like a nip or a tuck here and there. Certainly, I would too. But we're going to transform it. But here's the issue here, and this is what 2020 is all about, is there's a dime's worth of difference with all these candidates. They all want a Green New Deal. They all want to target our speech. They all want to raise our taxes. And there will never, ever, ever be a border wall if Donald Trump is not reelected in 2020. So what we do at Breitbart is we break down these terrible ideas and tactics using the tools that Andrew gave us. And I got to be honest, it's a great way to make a living. But you see the stakes. And that's why today I leave you with a call to action. So we go into 2020 with this promise of the biggest battle of our lifetimes. And my challenge for you is this. How many of you in this audience are Andrew Breitbart? I want to see 5,000 new Andrew Breitbarts after this event. I want you to take that spirit, his fight, his humor, his attention to detail, and his ability to dunk on the left, and I want you to take that back to your communities. Get involved at whatever level you can. Get yourself informed, get yourself activated, get yourself motivated, because everything is on the line. You're drawn to the fight. We can see it in your face already. And I can tell that we need every one of you to go up against the left at this moment. You are the next Andrews, and it's up to you to set the table for the generation that will come next after you. The same way that 10 years ago, I was in these seats exactly where you were. And I can see, looking over your faces and talking to so many of you in the halls, that you're inspired and you're informed and you're ready to go. And most importantly, you're not the type of people who are going to be anyone's bitch. Thank you.